welcome one and all to this week's episode of The Síle Show. Wellness, guys. What does it mean to you? Well, amongst a myriad of other things, I proffer that it's shaped at least by how we show up for ourselves, for others, and of course, in the moments that matter. Everything is energy, and energy is everything. And we're all always participating in a continuous exchange with the world around us, whether we notice it or not. Modern science, epigenetics, and psychosocial dynamics keep reminding us that the quality of our inner state shapes the signals that we send out, and those signals shape what returns. The charge carried in our thoughts, that electrical current, becomes the climate of our emotional life. And it's an ongoing conversation then between consciousness, the body's intelligence, and the responsive field that can only meet us where we're at. We don't get what we want. We get who we are, because the quantum responds to inner knowing, not hankering. And whilst the difference in language that's at play between these two states is in itself subtle, there's a stark difference in their logarithmic frequency. Where attention goes, energy flows. True story. We hear it all the time. And the moment that we identify an intention and choose to put our attention on that intention, we influence the energy of that moment and resultantly what lights up inside us. And being able to name the animal, catch the emotion before it becomes a thought that doesn't serve us, and therefore tell ourselves a different story, we're operating out of much greater levels of brain and heart coherence. And my totally amazing guest today lives and works at the intersection of the absolute myriad of practices and modalities that inform that exact type of understanding. Her work in integrative health, breathwork, and conscious living continue to help countless people to reconnect with their own inner steadiness. Her book, Light Up, offers a grounded, spiritually intelligent approach to well-being that speaks to both the science and the soul. She has a rare ability to translate complex ideas into something deeply human, deeply usable, and deeply true. Who have I? Well, without further ado, Miriam Hussey, the heartiest of Síle Show welcomes to lovely you.
Oh, thank you so much, Síle, for having me. I know we've been a long time trying to orchestrate this, but I'm so delighted to be here, and I feel already in your presence it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous energy, gorgeous space, and just thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you. It's going to be lovely. Let's do some lovely work here. So, Miriam, can I take you back to your time as a pharmacist, and will you share with us how the journey unfolded between that lovely, gentle, it would appear from our perspective, leaning into your more functional, more experiential, more integrative practice coming from allopathic medicine?
Yeah, so I started off I always from an early age had a growth for health and well-being. It was always just innate within me. And I know in my book I talk about my mom handing me Louise Hay's book when I was, a teenager. And I think that really opened my mind and laid the foundation or planted seeds, in my subconscious mind about the power of our subconscious mind, how the mind and body are deeply connected. But couple that with growing up in a very sport-filled house, a very active house where, we were always outside, outdoors. And I always had a grow for kind of nutrition as well. So I knew in the heart of heart that, I was doing my leaving cert, I was going to do something on the health well-being side. So that's what brought me into the world of pharmacy. And I'm so grateful for the journey, Síle, because people often ask me, do you wish you bypassed that and just gone straight to the more holistic world? And I always will say no, absolutely not. Because for me now, it's about the integration. And I think you have to go through the system and to be in it to learn its merits, but also learn potentially where there's limitations and blockages and resistance. So for me, I studied and I loved it. But it's funny, when I was doing my final year examination, you do your thesis, I did it on complementary and alternative medicine. So I even knew back then, I always had that leaning, I suppose, towards the more holistic side. But I went through it, did my finals, and then went on to practice as a community pharmacist for a decade. And in that, when you're in the thick of it every day, meeting people day in, day out, you really get, I suppose, it's a baptism of fire. And it's also your eyes are opened because you see the real life, unfolding before you. And I was grateful and in a way to work predominantly in the same pharmacy for a huge chunk of that 10 years. So I was able to see, this is a long-winded answer, but I was able to see, because I want to take you back to bring you on the journey, to see and join the dots of people. So someone might come in, Síle, they might start off on one tablet. So they get a prescription, they hand it in, I fill it out. Maybe it's a cholesterol tablet, maybe it's an antidepressant or whatever. And then what was happening, and I was seeing the trend of polypharmacy. So now, a couple of months later, they might be on a second tablet. A year later, maybe it's a third one, and so on. And you see this kind of accumulation because the side effects of one needs another tablet to counteract it, and so on. And I kind of started to just pull back and take that helicopter view and observe what was going on and observe the dots that maybe weren't being joined. So someone might come in and they say, Miriam, can I have a tablet for, and it might be just an over the counter for a headache, and you kind of start to go, well, why do you have a headache? And you start to lift the lid, because unfortunately what we tend to do in the modern world of medicine and in just the modern world of the hustle and bustle is the quick fix. It's just get me on, life is busy, go, 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 just like band-aid, 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 suppress. And we tend to do that with our health sometimes. And what I was noticing was, if we're band-aiding all the time and we're suppressing, and we're not lifting the lid and actually looking to what is the root, what's causing the manifestation of this lack of ease in the first place. And disease is a lack of ease. And I often ask myself, when I hand them their bag of medication, did anything change in that person's lifetime or their lifestyle from when they left the pharmacy to when they returned a month later? And often, because I asked them, I was very in the middle of asking questions because I was so curious. I was in my early 20s. I was so curious. And they would always say to me, no, because they just kind of hand their power over to the pill, to the doctor to fix everything. And, Einstein's expression, if nothing ever changes, nothing ever changes. So from month to month, if they're not changing anything in their lifestyle, so they're eating the same food, they're sleeping the same way, they're exercising or not exercising, they're drinking the same way, they're maybe staying in the same relationships, they're staying in the same stressful careers, their relationships are toxic, whatever. If they're not unpacking that and releasing the stress, the strain, and the struggle, well, then what I really noticed was the power of the emotional world to impact the physical world and the invisible forces. So we can't see anger, we can't see, frustration, you can't see love, you can't see joy, you can't go into the supermarket, pick them off the shelf and put them into your trolley. You can't put them on your plate. But we know without them, life is meaningless. And we know the power of anger and sadness and grief. If you're experiencing it, you feel it in your body. It has a ripple effect. Your chest, tightens. You get a stress rash. You overheat. Your blood pressure goes up. Your heart rate goes through the roof. Your respiratory is affected. Your digestion is affected. Your immune system is affected. So the power of our emotions to impact the physical is huge. And that just blew my mind and took me on a journey outside of the pharmacy to look beyond the pill and look at what I call now integrative health, or lifestyle as medicine, where we look at the whole person, not just the symptom, not just the band-aid, not just the rash, not just the stomach pain, not just the asthma or whatever you're experiencing. It's looking at that whole picture. What's going on in your life, Síle? What's going on in your mind? What's going on in your body? What's going on in your soul? And we'll get into that, but I really feel the soul piece is such a huge missing pillar in our modern world of wellness today.
Wow. I do too.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. it's gorgeous to be in that to get into that model of reality. It's a beautiful lead in for us to the wonderful work that you're doing now, the light up work. I call it light up theory in my own practice. I use it and as light up theory for my clients. And it has become quite the Bible of my practice because it's just so perfectly placed in people's lives right now if they're ready for it.
Yes, of course.
When the lesson is needed, the teacher will appear, but you have to be ready and willing to work with the teacher on that. And your theory then begins at exactly that point, the inner pharmacology, the psychopharmacology. Yeah. And do you have a particular teach point with that for people? Do you have a way in your lifestyle practice, your integrative practice of helping people to access that if it's not readily available to them, if it's not in their vernacular just yet?
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, when people are ready, they will source and seek out help. They'll start to ask questions. They'll start to look for guidance, perhaps. And I would always say, what I do, what Jerry does, is I would say we just hold space for people. Like, people do the work themselves. It's the unraveling, the unpacking of their inner stories, their past experiences, their traumas, potentially the limiting beliefs, what they've been locked in and what they experienced in the early childhood, that kind of lay down the foundations of their belief systems and their core values. But when people are ready, they're willing. I think what you see is a willingness to be vulnerable and a willingness to be honest with themselves and a willingness to get out of the head and into the heart. And when you open the heart and you kind of dissolve away the barriers of protection that you may have been blocking up around the heart for years, and you allow that to soften and dissolve and you sit into it and you feel into it, it's amazing what bubbles up for people. And when you're in a safe place, then that can be released in a healthy way. And when you release, a lot of people talk about healing, health is taking on new things and a new challenge and another marathon and another blah, blah, blah. And of course, the physical fitness and looking at your food and all the physical stuff is really important. But what's as equally important is the surrendering piece and the letting go of the past pains, the letting go of the shame, the guilt, forgiveness, compassion. These are huge things. And if we bypass them, we really won't get to the essence of living authentic, aligned life, I believe, in my experience, both personally and working with people. And at the end of the day, Síle, I think if we were to ask everybody, what really do you want? And I think most people would say, in today's world, I just want more peace. I want more ease in my life. I want less of the struggle and the strain and the stress and more of just the ease and the peace and feeling loved and connected. And I think in order to get to that place, we have to sit into the heart. And I think the longest journey that most people have to make sometimes is going from the head to the heart.
Yeah, beautifully put, Miriam. Yes, indeed, that long mile. And the nervous system literacy then that you speak of, again, being something that's teachable. It doesn't necessarily come fluently to people naturally, innately, just yet. But when the lesson is needed and they seek out the teacher that's right for them, if they have an openness to this heart-led practice, it's all available to them then. It's limitless. And they're opening the cap that they had perhaps on the paradigm. So they're never broken, they're just capped because their belief system is holding them in that limited place. And you're going to open them up into the limitless perspective. Yeah. So, for example, in relation to nervous system literacy, if somebody has a trauma in their lives, from backstory or intergenerationally, vicariously, that they don't understand, but there is something stuck and it's presenting, we say, as inflammation or congestion, which is usually how it does. The body's keeping score. Yeah. How can you help people to access where it is in the body?
Well, firstly, I think it's going back to what I really feel is important is to empower people with the knowledge. So this is where the intersection between the science and the spirituality is so important for me, so that you educate people about what your nervous system is first and foremost, why it's working the way it is, what's going on in your body, And then you drop them into kind of the breath work, the emotional side, the spiritual side, so that you're connecting the science with those invisible forces, as we spoke about earlier. Because reason being, when people understand what's going on in their nervous system, you can then shift from a place of anger and irritation and frustration and hatred towards your body to a place of awe and wow, marvel that this is actually what's going on. My body's just trying to protect me. It's a coping mechanism. And for me in my own life, when I had that, perspective shift of that reframing, where I went from actually despising my body or not liking it or, being an enemy to actually befriending it and saying, wow, and being grateful for it and all that it's doing and the power of this miraculous vessel that we get to live in, and that this is where our soul resides through this lifetime. When we do that, we bring and we breathe in more compassion. And then that for me is the key to allowing people to shift and change long term so that they have a more loving, harmonious relationship with themselves. And then the nervous system responds to that. So it's like, it's this kind of interlinked loop.
Yeah.
So the nervous system, let's bring it back to basics. So if anyone's listening here today and they're like, well, what is she talking about? What the hell is the nervous system? So like a quick rapid round. So the nervous system really is, if you think about it, like I like to describe it very simply, is imagine if you two different children, and I'm sure people will resonate with this. This resonates with even my own children. So you have one child that's maybe really high energy, like always on the go, loads of energy, like, one of these. So that's kind of like one side of your nervous system. And I call that's the red zone. And that's called the sympathetic side of the nervous system. And people might know that as that's your always on, your fight, your flight. And there's other ones I go through in the book. You have freeze, your phone. So this is where, we get, locked into kind of the stress side, the busyness, right? And stress isn't all wrong or bad. We do need it. Like it gets a bad rap, but we need a certain amount of stress to get you up in the morning, to get you out. We need the kick of cortisol to, get you to work on time, to meet those deadlines, to get the house cleaned, whatever it is. We need a certain amount. This is where you go into the red zone. And what's happening in your nervous system at this point is it's like your antenna go on. And the nervous system was designed to keep you safe, Síle. So if there's a threat, if there's a danger, and we've evolved from the cave, if a bear was to run out of the cave, your light switch goes on, your nervous system turns on and says, oh, holy shit, Síle, there's a bear about to run at you. Brace up, get ready. So you get ready to either fight or flight. So you fight the bear that's running at you, or you flight, you get the hell out of there. So that's when often what you'll see is when we're in a stress state, why we brace, we get tight, we get tense. We mightn't be out in the garden lifting weights or, doing anything strenuous, but we feel like we're just locked and tight, or at the laptop and we're like, ugh. This is the body because you're in that constant state of stress. Also, when you're in that state of stress, what happens is the body is very clever. So it's trying to keep you safe, remember? It's trying to keep you away from that bear. And it's saying, if you need energy to run away from that bear or to fight the bear, so it's going to crave glucose, it's going to crave sugar, it's going to crave the quickest releasing form of that. And that's often your glucose. So that's why, even though intellectually you might know, don't eat the chocolate bar, don't eat the scone with the coffee, don't have it. But then when you're in stress, it's like, it's a craving, it's a drawing towards it. That's biologically your body saying, she needs this because otherwise she might die, basically. But we've no bears running at us. We live in a modern world. So what is jumping out of the caves at us every single day is the notifications, the emails, the to-do lists, the drop the kids, the activities, the go, the here. We are just being bombarded 24/7. And it's like, think of the tabs open on your phone or the tabs open on your laptop. The more tabs that are open is the slower the functionality of the device, and it sometimes crashes and freezes. So clear out the tabs, it doesn't drain the battery as much. So we, in our modern world of today, what's happening is, imagine the light switch goes on. Your nervous system was like to be like a light switch. It goes on, but it was always meant to be turned off. So when the bear disappeared and you ran away, you went into the other side. So think of the second child, that's the green child, the green zone. And this is the child that's maybe a bit, very calm, very chilled, slower pace, a bit more just like goes with the flow, relaxed. So this is what we call the green zone, or the rest, digest and repair side. And it's really only in this green zone that we can heal, because in this space we can recalibrate. And what happens is you can come back into a regulated space. But it's important to know that light switch goes on, we're meant to turn it off. Imagine if an athlete went out to run a 400-meter sprint and they give it everything. So in that, they need the adrenaline, they need the cortisol, they need to just push through. And we have stages and phases in our lives where we will have to just push through. And that's the reality of life. So I'm not here to say, all roses and everything is good vibes only. No, I'm here to say we have to feel the duality of life, the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, and to not feel them is actually doing a disservice to your nervous system. So athlete on the track, but when the race is over, they get off and they rest and they rehab and they rehydrate. We are the athletes in our life, but sometimes we're never getting off the track. Yeah. What's happening is we're staying in the red zone long term. And this is where stress becomes dangerous. This is where it becomes not serving, is when we don't turn the light switch off and we don't have the awareness to even catch ourselves, because it's become the norm. Mm-hmm. So it's become normal, or it's become common, should I say, but it's not normal for the nervous system. So what I would be saying to people is a regulated nervous system. And the reason I want to explain this is because when you understand it, you're more likely to make shifts and changes to regulate it, because you know the impact it's going to have. So a regulated nervous system is not one that's always in the green zone either. Because if you're constantly in that well, then you probably won't get anything done, So I always say it's meant to be like an elastic band. So if you imagine an elastic band, it gets pulled. That's life. We will get pulled. We'll get dragged. You'll have deadlines. There'll be busy phases and stages. Or you'll go through like a grief or a trauma or something you did not expect. So we can get pulled, but think of the elastic band, bring it back. It retracts back in. So it's important that we learn how to pull it back. What are the little practices that we can be doing regularly and often to take us out of that always on, fight, flight, go, 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 and think of the elastic band coming back in. How can we pop back in? So a regulated nervous system is a flexible one. It's not always just about a calm one. It's a flexible one. It's one that can be adaptable, and it's one that knows, that has conscious awareness of when I'm too far gone, how can I come back? What do I say no to? What do I say yes to? How can I get those 5 breaths in? How can I just put the phone away? Can I go to bed 15 minutes earlier? Can I reduce some of the caffeine and the processed foods? So these are simple things, Síle, that don't cost anything, that can be done anywhere in the world and at any time. So to bridge that back in as well, just to finish on that, the impact is if we're constantly in the red zone, it's going to impact your immune system. It's going to impact your digestive system, because, when you're eating, like you're on your laptop, you're like watching something, you don't even know how many people have just sat down and they've hoovered down their meal before they're even aware.
A nose bag lunch is the norm nowadays. You're so busy having time to even come away from your laptop for the half hour or the hour.
Or you're eating on the go in the car. Yeah. So what that's signaling into your nervous system is you don't have time to be still and pause and enjoy. So she must be in constant racing mode. So the body's saying, keep her locked in that fight or flight, keep kicking that adrenaline and cortisol into the body. And our cortisol is meant to naturally rise in the morning, and then it declines as you go throughout the day. And then your melatonin rises at nighttime, which is your sleep hormone. But because we're kind of on the blue screens, and because we've been stimulated throughout the day, we're not retracting back in those micro moments. Cortisol is high, and then what's happening is we're going to bed and we're tired and wired. And then we're like exhausted, but we're wired and we can't switch off. And then we wake up the next day feeling tired. And then what do? More caffeine, more sugar, get us through, and we're back in the cycle again. So I would be saying to people, understand the science of what the nervous system is and how it impacts you. And then that will allow you to really put importance on how you can regulate and come back into balance throughout the day, for your, not just for your physical health, but for your mood, your mental health, your everything is connected. So
They're all one, aren't they?
It
Mind,
is.
body, spirit, soul. They're not even just connected, they're one.
Yes.
And I think our greatest potential arrives into our world for us every time we remember that, because we will remember it on some occasions and it will become dismembered by the stuff of life again. We have to remember it.
Absolutely.
It's a practice, not a mandate.
100%.
And do you see then, would you see still, I know you would have seen it certainly in the pharmacy, but would you still be seeing from a different perspective, through a different lens, the chronic ailment in people's body being an absolute vibrational match for how they're showing up in their world, how they're showing up for themselves, for other people?
Yeah, I really, as you said, everything is one. So what's going on in your emotional world is going to ripple into the body. And, in the book, I talk about the ripple effect and the 3 circles. So it's like the outer circle is the body. And I came up with this analogy through the practice from yoga. So yoga has been a huge a practice in my life that really has been, I suppose, life-changing and transformational when I first studied. And then I went on to study yoga psychology in LA. And that was just threaded in another layer of, wow, how connected the psychology of who we are as humans feeds into the nervous system and the physical body. So the outer circle is like the physical body. And that houses everything, that's the tangible things. And that's why when I meet people or talk about it, it's easy to start there, because that's what people can see. You can see your skin, you can see your bones, you can look, blood, the cells, the organs. These are all the physical things. And of course, they're so important that we look after them and manage them. But that's the outer circle. Then the next circle, if you were to go in, is the mind. And that houses everything, from your thoughts and, your feelings, your emotions, and how that, shows up for you every day, and the impact to have the body and the mind are connected. But then if you go in again, the inner circle is the soul. And for me, as I mentioned, I think this is such an important pillar that we sometimes ignore or just aren't educated on, or we think it as woo-woo, and we think, or maybe that's religious stuff, and, no way am I going there. So the soul it's who you are. Like, we can't deny it. It's this invisible force. Think of the breath. We can't deny the breath. Without it, we would be dead, but we can't see it. So it's this invisible force, but it becomes visible because when you breathe in through the nose, what do you see? You see your belly rises. So something is going in and causing this to create movement. So the invisible becomes visible. The same with the soul. I think this invisible force becomes visible through the physical manifestations of the body, through this ripple effect. So if the soul is, I say, if it's tethered, if it's, really being pulled. So think of somebody as an example. Somebody is in a relationship. They went into it because it looked good on paper. It's a right fit on the outside, but deep down they're saying, this is not, I'm not feeling this here. It's not aligned to my truth. Or you're in a job or a career that you're just over here going, oh my God, but deep down, there's more. That there's a deeper calling or longing. It's not aligned to your truth. Your soul is your truth, really. It's that inner spark of light. It's what makes every single person different also. But it's also the purity. If you think of a baby, when a baby is born, everyone's drawn to their presence, to their energy. It's that the eyes, it's like the little squidgy butt, it's like, yet they have nothing.
Yeah.
They've no job, they've no status, they've no followers, they've no money, they have a big pot belly and a nappy, and they're living at home and they're bald,
no hair.
and they've no teeth. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're not drawn to the physical, we're drawn to that energy that they exude, that divine, I call it divine grace, that purity, that divine light.
The essence of
essence.
us.
It's the essence, and it's the truth, and it's that life force source. But we've all had that because we were all babies. And I don't think we ever lose it. I think what happens is we become detached from it and disconnected from it. And I really believe we connect back to it when we still the mind, when we dial down the noise, when we unplug from everybody else's world and the chaos and the stress and the busyness, and we go in we meet, we have those micro moments of feeling that connection back and that peace. And if we listen and we're open to hearing, feeling, we will get messages. And that's those nuggets of wisdom that your soul is saying, no, not now. Or yes, 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 do that. But we can't hear that if it's blocked all the time. So if that soul has been tethered, I believe it's like it sends a ripple effect, like a little whisper or a little siren goes out, like a red flag shoots up and it goes into the mind. And the mind picks up on this signal because everything is vibration, everything is energy, and we cannot deny the science of that now. So the soul is going, not happy here, there's something not right. Then you get the ripple into the mind, the next circle, and the mind says, what's going on? I don't feel at ease. The anxiety starts to bubble, or like frustration or irritation. And maybe you don't even know why, but something feels off. You feel lonely or you feel something, disconnection. And then the mind, if that becomes agitated, what happens? It sends a signal into the body, drops it into the nervous system. So now the nervous system is picking up on the signal of distress, disease, and it becomes dysregulated. And that's when we get pulled into the red zone. And then we get the physical manifestations showing up in the body.
Yeah, of course. And when you
That's my belief.
And so relatable and beautifully explained, and therefore accessible to many others who might have had an inner knowing of that and a hankering after the peace, but until they hear, so the PES, until they hear that peace, they can't access their own peace. Because I think the essence of us, our soul as such, is socialized out of us in different ways, depending on the family we're born into or we arrive into. Families come together in a myriad of beautiful ways nowadays, and probably always did, but more so maybe even nowadays. Things have changed and ever evolving to allow people bring their families together, which is wonderful. But the essence of us from the get-go in that fourth trimester is being socialized out of us, very often inadvertently. And sometimes because people are in circumstances that aren't safe for them and people can't show up for them emotionally. Maybe physical needs are met, but emotional needs aren't.
Yes.
Even in a very ordinary circumstance. I know when I was rearing my own children, I was so busy. I was holding down 2 jobs and I was studying, and they were small, and I was in full-time education at the time. I was teaching, and the children were coming to school with me. So we were getting up in the morning, getting ready for school, going to work to all intents and purposes together, coming home together, going to all of our extracurricular activities together. It was a very, very busy space. Yeah. So whilst I would like to think that I was a great mammy, and I definitely was the best mammy I could be with the wisdom and knowledge I had at the time, those first 7 years in particular might have gone a little bit awry. Unknown to me, I might have still been the mammy who was physically looking after everybody's needs, but maybe not always 100% emotionally available. I could have been making a dinner and looking over her shoulder with my coat still on, lifting the breakfast dishes off the unit, saying, oh yeah, no, that's not me. Just practice again and I'll be over to you in a second. You don't intend to, but you can be the mammy who thinks she's great, doing your very best and still not meeting the needs. Those children might then have a lot of unpicking and unpacking to do at a later point in their own lives. Their anxiety will present in ways for them that will take them back to those formative years where maybe their needs weren't met.
Absolutely.
And it's not that they were in a totally unsafe place. It's just, that's their journey. That's their curriculum then. They come through us, but they're not of us.
100%. And, I 100% agree with everything you said. But it's also for maybe people that are listening whose kids maybe now are older, not to be hard on yourself either, because as you said it beautifully there, you did the best you did knowing what you knew at that time. And I think it's important, that we also understand that nobody is perfect. Nobody. And I would put my hand up and say, I'm not perfect. And with all the knowledge and awareness I have, I do my best. But am I perfect? Absolutely not, And every child that enters the world also has their own journey to go on. And I believe we choose our parents, whether people might go, oh God, and I wouldn't have never chose that lifestyle. But there's always lessons and learnings for each soul, I believe, to unpack. And the healing that everyone has to go on is going to be unique. And even if you grow into the same family, the same parents, your journey is still going to be different. Your experiences of the world are still going to be different. And you know, your mom, your dad could come in and they could say something. It could trigger one child and not the other, you know? So it's like, we're all different.
Yeah.
And I take the example of identical twins, and my sister has identical twins, and they look the exact same. I don't even know the difference now, and they're 10, but they're very different personalities, like very different. And yet they grew up in the same environment with the same parents. So yes, I would say, let's do what we can. Let's try not create as much pockets of holes and voids much as we can, but also not to give ourselves like the rap on the knuckles all the time, because that's not going to be good for yourself or for your children either. Sure. You know what I mean? So that forgiveness piece and the compassion piece is also huge. And it's a huge gateway to opening the heart, as I mentioned earlier. And I think when we use the breath to open the heart, it dissolves some of those stuck emotions. And then when we let them bubble up and come out, then it creates space for a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new way of feeling. Yeah. And more gratitude can arise. And then from that place, you know, it's never too late. You can always have the conversation with your children, even if you're older. You can always sit down with them. You can go, this is what I knew back then. This is what I did. Maybe it wasn't right. But you can open the doorway for those incredibly powerful conversations to have. And I think, you know what, I think it's the biggest thing actually we're missing at the moment, whether it's between relationships, married couples, whether it's to your son, your daughter, your parents, siblings. I think we're not communicating enough in a healthy, open and honest way. There's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of, I think, you think this, you know, I presumed. And stories like grow legs, like the Chinese whispers. And then before you know it, 10 years has passed and people aren't talking, you know. So I just think if we can be brave enough to just sit down and have those open and honest conversations, you'd be surprised. Often I always say what's beyond the cave of uncertainty or beyond that resistance point is your greatest opportunity for liberation and freedom.
You know, you're so right. And it is so commonplace nowadays to have no contact situations happening, and they come from that beginning point. They're rooted in the non-communication or the convoluted communication over a period of time. Do you know what I see as well, though, Miriam, in a very real way? When that's not possible, because somebody, we say, for example, arrives to my clinic with that type of ailment in their backpack, amongst many other things, the hurt and the sadness of broken relationships, whether familial, friend, romantic, whatever, same husband, a different name, you know, same problem, a different decade, whatever.
Yes, yeah.
I also think it's lovely to empower yourself. And again, as I say, I use your book in the last couple of years. Previously, it was all of the Hay House content. And I actually I'm going a sidebar here for a second. A lot of people were arriving to me with the let them theory, you know, supporting them. Yeah, but I actually found that I didn't hear let them in most of my clients. I heard F them in tone, let them in word. Yeah. And I thought, gosh, that's not really going to make your boat go faster. So I was having to work with people a lot to kind of unpick the armory of that and get them to put down their armor. You know, I found that was probably very helpful, and I'm not taking from her fabulous work. I think it's great. And she's powerhouse. She's fantastic. She and her daughter now are traveling together with that content. But just to let you know, from my perspective, how it can be picked up by people who are already quite broken. Yeah. You're going to get a map of where you're at. So that can sound like the language that you need, because you're only going to get what you're circulating in frequency.
100%, yeah.
Whereas when I give them light up, and they can swap out let them for light up, a lot of the lessons are the same, but they're coming from a totally different vantage point. And they're helping my clients. Again, because I would believe in similar things to you, and I would use similar language, I can only work with what I've got in the room. And that's what they're the type of people that tend to come to me. I think the universe always has it quite nicely lined up. Yeah. But that's, people respond so beautifully to that.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just a little reframe, yet it's a huge perspective shift, because really what I'm gathering from what you're saying there, and I love it, is like you're saying people, if you're coming with the F them, you know, that's anger, it's frustration, it's irritation. Yes, you have to feel that. You have to feel it. You can't deny it. You can't suppress it. You can't be pushing it back down, because then you're bottling it up. And it's like the bottle of fizzy Coke. I always use that analogy. Bottle of Coke, lid is squeezed tight, yet the bottle has been absolutely shook around the place. The bottle is your vessel. It's the body. What's been tossed around inside is all that anger, frustration, but also hormones and the chemicals. And then what's squeezing the life, the lid is like that suppression. And what's shaking the bottle is the stress of life and those fractured relationships. And that's just like tension. And then eventually what happens is you get that release, that absolute outburst. It's the breakdown in the relationship. I'm done with you, whatever. Or it's a burnout and physically, and it's a diagnosis perhaps. So I'd be saying to people, we don't want to push that anger down, that F them. You want to say, yeah, F them, let them. But you got to let it up, and you got to feel that anger, and you got to get it out of the body in a healthy way. You got to move those emotions up and out. So talk about it. A good cry. I always say crying is like vomiting for your emotional world. It's a release. Yeah. Write about it. Work it out through exercise, through the breath, the lion's breath. Get it out. Get it out. Get it out. A good scream into the pillow. Get on a punching bag. Get it out. Right? Then you create the space. And this is the shift. So this is what you spoke about. You go from let them to light them. So it's let it out. Then you have the space to create now plant a new seed, a new thought pattern, build a new emotion. Neuroplasticity of the brain. You're building a new firing and wiring a new way. So then you go to, how can I honor and love myself? How can I see it for what it is? And this is where the forgiveness piece comes in potentially, whether it's forgiving yourself or forgiving the other person. But to keep on to that anger, is only toxic to yourself. You're the one holding the hot coal. Who's getting burnt? You. So to hold on to that is going to burn you. So it's not to condone or not to condemn what they've done or condone it, but honor it and say that has happened. But I'm not a tea bag. I'm not going to stay stuck in it. We're not meant to stew.
Yes.
We move on now. And that's the shift where you go from being in an anger or an energy of fear, shifting it to an energy of love.
Yeah.
I love myself enough to forgive and let go and not get burnt. I love myself enough to move on. I love myself enough not to stew in this anymore. I deserve more. My life deserves more. And I'm going to shift and pivot and cut those ties or do whatever I need to do, but know that I've done my best. Or if it is a forgiveness or you're trying to reconcile a relationship and they're not letting you in, you do what you can. And then you've done what you needed to do. You've done your best part. Now you can move on without that guilt or any of those kind of, that it's like those critters in the basement staying hidden down there. You've let it up, you've left it out, and now you can move through with your head high and your shoulders back.
Yes.
And that is a huge difference, I think, from going from energy of fear, which is kind of blocking, tense, tight, to an energy of love, which is forgiveness and gratitude.
And they're really the only two emotions that there are.
That's
it's just the flip side of the one coin. Everything is one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And it's beautiful work to be able to do. It's so lovely as well to be in a space where we can just chat like this. I love the language, the fluidity of that knowing, that agreeing. Because sometimes you'd love to help people to get there because from your own vantage point that that's where the freedom is, but you can't.
Yeah.
It's like you can't tell somebody when to let go. You can suggest that letting go, handing over, surrendering is where the freedom is at and the potential reveals itself.
Yeah.
But people have to be ready.
They have to be ready. And you absolutely cannot talk somebody into, from a head space, because the worst thing sometimes is like, when somebody's in that space or in their dark place and you say, you know what you need to do now, and they're just like, F off, get away from me. Yeah. I'm in the depths of it here. I can barely get out of bed or whatever it is. I'm not able to be in that light up mindset right now because I'm in the dark mindset right now. And that's okay because it's a process and they have to be, worked through it and it takes a bit of time. But also it has to be embodied. It has to be, it's not just, intellectually knowing, to intellectually know something and to actually live it are two different things.
For sure.
And this is where the patience and compassion piece comes in, I believe, where, you meet them at that soul level and you allow them to come back to the heart and come back to an aligned place. And also knowing that sometimes, your world might crumble and unravel because your old lifestyle wasn't serving you anymore. And it came to the point where if you weren't going to change it yourself, the universe makes you change it.
Sure, it's happening for you, not to you.
Exactly, yes. And that, every is a redirection. Every rejection is a redirection. And trusting in that divine timing and divine space, and trusting that is happening and unraveling as it's meant to, and knowing, that famous where the light comes in. So trusting that even in that rock bottom moment, that you are being guided towards something better potentially for the next phase and stage of your life. And knowing that life is always going to be phases and stages. There's going to be transitions. Life is transition. It is change. Yeah. And to resist it and want to stay stuck in the familiar, like that's not the reality of the modern. That's the flexibility again.
Of course, because you're over-meeting your need for safety and security there. We have such a core biological need for safety and security. Yeah. But if we over-meet that need, and we're risk averse in terms of accepting that maybe the relationship we were in, or the job that we were in, or the friend group we were in doesn't serve us anymore, rather than staying with what's familiar because we're afraid of the new, the novelty, we're over-meeting our need for safety to the point that we're actually limiting ourselves again. Yeah, absolutely. And the anger piece, I just love the way you explained that, because anger is absolutely necessary. It's without, to some extent, anger, we'd have no demonstrations, and we probably wouldn't have very much change, even socially, never mind within ourselves and in our own worlds. But it's not, it's the catalyst for change, but it is not the change. So we need to use it insofar as it serves us, and then climb up into our higher selves, that 30,000 feet view, as you said, dial out to dial back in with a bit more awareness, because knowledge isn't where the game is played, action is. So you can learn it, you can take advice on it, but you actually have to get in there and action it differently, which requires bravery.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've used the analogy before in the past, again, back to the yoga. We would talk a lot about the chakras, which are your energy centers. Again, the invisible forces, and this is where I love now science able to actually, prove that things like meditation change your brainwave and absolutely impact your health and well-being. But when it comes to yoga, we talk about the energy centers, the chakras, and there's 7 of them. And I love bridging the gap again between science and spirituality, because if you look at where the energy centers lie in the yoga philosophy or the Eastern philosophy, there's 7 main ones, and they run along your spinal column and up here to your brain. And of course, if you look at the central nervous system, what is it? It consists of the brain and the spinal column. So when you do yoga and you're twisting and you're rotating, what you're doing is you're trying to literally, obviously, calm your nervous system, but you're doing it through unlocking and unblocking emotions that might be stuck in these energy centers. But when you talk about the anger and the action, it's so important. But I always say the lower energy centers, the bottom 3, are all about safety, survival. So it's about rooting down safety. Are you secure? Have you a home? Do you feel safe? It's also about pleasure and, that sense of courage and confidence. So these are really get your feet stuck in the muck and the earth and really live in the real world, be grounded.
Yeah, repetitive. Walking into.
Yes. And also just being realistic, like we live here on the earth. So, sometimes we talk about spiritual bypassing, which is where people, meditate and love and light and love and light. And yes, we need that. But then they're cut off from the real world, where they're not actually then taking any action, or, they can't pay their bills, or, they're not able to survive in the real world because it's all airy-fairy. Ooh. So, and then you have people who are caught in the lower energy centers who are really anger. So what I would say is the lower energy centers are the bottom 3. Then the heart is the 4th one, and that's the bridge. And that bridges the gap between the lower 3 and the upper 3. So the upper 3 here, how you speak, speaking into existence, your dreams, your desires. This one is your kind of ability to vision, to see, to manifest, to kind of foresight. And then the top one is your connection to source energy, to divine, to God, to universe, whatever you want to call that. So what happens is the bridge is the gap, or the gateway between the 2. So if you're stuck in the upper ones, you can be very much airy-fairy in the woo-woo, kind of like everything's love and light, but you might be cut off from living in the real world. So really not, as I said, not able to pay your bills, not able to actually get on with. And then, as I said, if you're caught in the lower ones, you might be very angry and your heart is closed. So it's like throwing fire onto the fire. It's more anger, it's more aggression. It's it's the kind of toxic stuff that you're not in your heart space. You're not connected to the divine, trusting something bigger. So what we want to do in the yoga is create this flow up and down through opening the heart by breathing, so that you're able to connect to the higher source, that you're able to have this kind of intuitive connection to universe, but that you can ground it, so that you can still live in the real world, but with an open heart.
Yeah.
So you can still take action, you can still feel the anger, but you don't get stuck in it.
Yeah.
That you can drop in and connect. So does that make sense?
Oh, it's just perfect sense. And I can feel my chakras healing as I'm listening to you. And honestly, my pineal gland just did a little spin up there. I mean, it's gorgeous. And it's so lovely to allow people to just tap into this in a space like this without even helping people to realize we can access this. It's a cost-free protocol. We can access this type of healing just by the alchemy of breath, as you explained so beautifully in your book, putting your hand on your heart and just breathing differently, functional breath, to be in your moment, to come back to self before you face the world, come home to your own heart and heal those energy centers. It doesn't get any better. And it is very important, because if we're, depending on how you look at it, if you're a spirit having a human experience, or whatever way, whatever is the God of one's own understanding, and however somebody likes to believe in whatever, or not,
Yes, of course.
Open to everything and attached to nothing. The bottom line is we all want peace. We need peace. And it's the peace that we're looking for help with all the time. And I wonder, on that note, albeit that you're so learned in this space and you're such an amazing guide, so naturally and so inherently, do you ever find still that you come unstuck for all of your knowledge? And,
absolutely. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, like 100%, I would never say that I'm perfect or pretend to be perfect. And I still work with my own psychotherapist, and I obviously check in with her very regularly still, because I always say to people, if you want to stay fit, strong, people will work out and they'll go to a gym, But if you want to stay fit and strong in your mind and stay on top of your emotions and stay, emotionally strong and mentally strong, well, then you have to keep doing the work, because every day you've been challenged by something else. Something else has been triggered. We're onions and we're just peeling and unpacking, and something else will come up and then you'll get triggered again. You thought you'd that healed, but oh my God, it bursts open again. Yeah. So 100%. And what she would always say to me, and it's just something that it's stuck, and it's something that I really, really try and live by. She goes, you cannot become a prisoner of an archetype. So because you speak about health and wellness doesn't mean you're always going to be perfectly healthy and well. Or because you speak about all of these, it doesn't mean that you are going to be excluded from pain and chaos and stress. Absolutely not. I'm human too. We all are.
Maybe even somewhat to the contrary, Miriam, because you're so aware of all of this. Sometimes you might be even more susceptible to the pitfalls, because you're such an energy being.
Yeah, I know.
I don't
mean quite susceptible
one
as
perhaps
well.
Might be, because
to feelings and picking up on energies and different things.
Very
yes,
healing
quite
people.
Empathic,
Yes,
so like I feel things a lot, and I feel things quite deeply.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful thing, but it's also a challenging thing. Yeah. So you have to really
something that you have to keep working on. You can't see what's on the label when you're in the jar. So even though you can talk the talk, but then to walk the talk in the moments that matter, even the coaches need a coach.
100%.
Even the gurus need a guru.
Yes. And, I think for me, the biggest thing, though, that I can hand on heart say is I have a good ability to catch myself. And even when I talk to my therapist, she would always say that. She goes, I love that you have awareness of catching yourself, and I can be honest with myself. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. I can just catch myself. Oh, that's bubbling up there, or I overreacted over there, or I'm really tired today, I'm overdoing it, or I'm burning the candle at both ends, or whatever. Yeah. So I have an ability to catch myself when I'm kind of too far in the red zone, and then say, okay, what do I need today to come back a little bit? And that might say, like even with you trying to get organized this, it took longer than maybe expected, because I had to manage my time and my energy with the kids. and they're my number one. That's my number one job at the moment. And then everything else, I pivot around that. And I have to be very, careful that I don't expend myself. And that's kind of where my pitfall comes in. And, I can, to say yes or to go. And then I have to, no, I have to pull back again. So I'm 100% not perfect, but I think what I love that I'm not perfect, because I can connect with people and people can connect with me because I say it as it is, and I'm quite real, and we have a soul-based community and we meet up online and they're the most beautiful people in the world. And when we come together, it's just people being open, being honest, and then everyone comes away feeling, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And someone has a nugget of wisdom, or someone will drop one line in that says something and it just resonates and it opens a conversation. And, so I would always say to people, please don't try to aim for perfection, aim for authenticity.
And enough is good enough most times.
Yeah. You know what? We're very hard on ourselves.
I know. And even how you say, you said, I'm not perfect. And then you went on to explain, and because that was perfectly answering my question. And inside, I want to say, but you are perfect.
Yeah.
Just, you so are. But it's just that perhaps, I think, what I'm hearing though is that, but my practices aren't always so perfect that I won't sometimes feel that I need to ground again, or I need to, and I just think that's such a relatable piece for people as well. I had the great pleasure of being at one of your events in Dublin together, and the energy in the room blew me away. I really couldn't speak for a couple of days. I chose to be as quiet as I could be. Now, I had work on the following afternoon, but not a lot. That was just coincidental, because if I had, I would have to have gone ahead with what I was doing. But I actually allowed myself to just percolate in the energy that you shared. You were amazing. You had Marianne Williamson, of course, on the stage. So, I mean, hello.
I know.
Hats off. Like, talk about, I mean, I was fangirling you today. I had to get it all out before you come up here so that I wouldn't spill in the space. But my goodness, to have her there as well. I mean, they are the people that they're, my Bible from a time in my life when I so badly needed the lesson, and the teacher fell off every shelf in every bookshop for years. And I digested all of that content really enthusiastically. And then I would like to think that I'm living it still and evolving through it as beautiful people like you and Jerry come into the space with your new content. But that night, the energy that you exuded in the space was the perfectly imperfect piece that I loved. You put up a little piece, you shared a piece from one of your children. I can't actually recall now what it was, but I know, remember the piece on the phone?
Yes, when she was singing.
Yes.
It's going to be okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that was, I could not get that out of my head.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like, beyond that, the rest is a total illusion.
I know. And also the power of that, Síle. Sorry to jump in, but, because I was just in Paris with Marianne, and we had a beautiful...
Totally jealous, by the way. So sorry, just had to fire that in. I was with you in spirit.
But we had a great weekend, and we had beautiful conversations, and I was sharing about that piece about my daughter, and we just had a great conversation, because we were saying that, they energetically are picking up all of the time. And the power of that, like, being, we say it like without even realizing we're saying it. We're saying, we were on the same wavelength, or we just clicked, like the vibe, good vibe. What is that? It's energy, it's frequency, it's wave, it's being connected. And it's that like sense of, picking up on stuff before it's even spoken into existence. Yeah. They can feel it, and you can feel energy if you walk into a room and someone have just been fighting. You haven't witnessed the fight, but oh, Jesus, tension here. You could cut it with a knife. So we do have that ability. But she was in the playroom, which is just off the kitchen, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I was doing something, and I was really having a wobble. I was feeling kind of overwhelmed, like doubting myself, having one of those moments, and I was just really wobbly. I heard her. She was sitting on the floor in the playroom playing with her dolls, and she loves to sing. Like, she sings all the time, which is such a beautiful thing, Oh,
gorgeous.
But she started singing this song, and I was like, oh my God. And then I had to record it. So she started, excuse my voice, my singing voice, but she started singing, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." And I was like, oh my God, Oh my God. So I didn't record it and I have it on my phone and I listen to it so often now because if I'm ever having a little wobble, I just put that back on.
Yeah.
And I really feel she was just sending me a message.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were channeled through her.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. So
I
it's
know
beautiful.
that it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking, I'm going to correct myself now. I don't think that's the piece you played that night then. I think I saw that on your socials at a later time.
Oh, yes.
Because Marianne would have been there.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm confused about the piece, but I know that on the night you shared about your children. Maybe you put something up on the big screen, but there was something so relatable about the two of you as a couple. And then being able to share that you have these little children and, you know, you work with Jerry to whatever extent and you work on your own and you've got your book. And but also, and more importantly than anything, you're a mammy and you're being there for those little kiddies in these formative and really special years. Because, and you explained that to us, and all of that was so relatable. I could feel the energy in the room. Some people were crying, some people were breathing, clapping themselves on the back, I'm sure, getting reassured that, they've done the right thing. They've not missed the boat career-wise.
Yeah.
They can go back. Just the sharing, the future is human, happened in that space where we realised a married couple sharing the story of their lives just in a very ordinary, extraordinary way. Jerry getting up and doing the boxing, showing us how we can get it out, you know, work the toxins out of our system physically.
Yeah.
And then you jumping in with the bottle analogy. I mean, it's all just so relatable and so real. And it's really where it's at. The rest is the illusion.
Yeah.
We tie ourselves up in knots.
We do.
And we just need to remember your daughter's message.
Yeah, we try to conform and fit in, and we put this kind of pressure on ourselves. What's Mary doing up the road? Her kids in that exercise or activity. She's playing golf. Oh, I should join the paddle. I should do that. We just are like, oh my God.
It's all data. It's too much data. We weren't intended to take in, to absorb so much data, because most of the data that we're taking on board nowadays, we're not even doing it consciously.
I know.
It's happening so passively. We have to really consciously shut down sensory awareness a lot of the time.
Yes, yeah. And putting the phone away is one of the biggest things, having set times. But also, just I would say to people, you know, what I would always say to people is take a moment to just pause. Just pause and close your eyes and just reflect back over your life, maybe just for the last 6 months. And imagine that you're sitting on a couch in your house and there's no one there and you have the remote in your hand and you click the screen and a movie starts to play. And the movie is you and your life over the past 6 months. And unbeknownst to you, there was a film crew following you the whole time in the background and they were just capturing your life. And I would say to people, this isn't to bring up judgment or shame or anything like that. It's just to have a pause, to reflect, and this open the lens of just a curiosity. How have I been living my life? How have I been showing up? What's the energy that I've been carrying and living in every day? So from the minute you get up in the morning, watching the screen, what does she do? What does she do first thing? Does she reach for the phone? Does she not? Is she rushing around? Does she eat her breakfast or not? Does she eat on the go? Does she fuel herself or not? What does she eat? When does she eat? How does she eat? What does she wear? You know, does she dress to impress? Does she dress to just hide? When she looks in the mirror, what does she see? What does she say to herself? Noticing what's the language inside her mind. How does she communicate? You know, what are relationships like? Where does she create space to do things for herself? Does she allow herself to create space to do things for herself? And just going through your day, what are your interactions? How are you spending it? And people just go, wow, like, because we don't stop to reflect sometimes. Yeah. And again, it's not to stir up shame, but it's just to go, oh. And then you can kind of go, well, what's the next 6 months? So I'm now the observer of this film, but I'm the main character. I'm also the script writer and I'm the director. So over the next months, if I was to create the sequel, what would it be? What are the little pivots and shifts and changes that I'd like to implement to see her smile more, perhaps, to see her have more fun, to see her rest more, to see her honor herself more, or him? It's not just, I'm just saying she, because you're in front of me. But like, what needs to shift and change. And maybe instead of joining up for the extra golf class or the paddle class, you say, no, I'm actually taking that night off to sit on the couch and watch a movie with my husband or cuddle up with my kids. Like, it's the little,
Absolutely.
those light up moments.
Yes.
And just taking stock. What's the energy I've been living in? Am I the Tasmanian devil running around, sugar, caffeine, or am I calm and grounded? Or am I a bit angry and bitter? And I'm carrying that chip on my shoulder a little bit. I'm a bit resentful and I'm hissing around at everybody. Yeah. And we can be all of that.
Yeah.
You know, but in general, what's the predominant energy and emotion I've been living? And am I happy with that? And if you are, amazing.
Crack on.
Keep it up. But if you're not, what are the little tweaks that could bring you to a place of more ease and grace?
I love that. That's so special and so important. And again, so doable and doable immediately without having to sign up for anything. You can literally just decide to get into your observing self as often as possible.
Yeah.
Have a little view of things from metacognition perspective and see from this vantage point, do I want to begin to change epigenetically, or do I want to just take the diagnosis and take no charge of the prognosis? Do I want to just take the relationships that weren't working and stay in them because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and all of the things. Yeah. So it's changing perspective. I absolutely love that. And the the master of the reframe, be the master of the reframe all the while. Yeah. Miriam, if you were to write Light Up tomorrow, so it's written, we all have it. I use it all the time. Honestly, I nearly feel I should be sending you commission for my practice. It's my Bible. And I'm going to say my Bible du jour. I mean, there'll be something else because that's what happens. It could be yours, could be your sequel. I'll wait with bated breath for that. But if you were revising it already, who would? Not I, said the little red hen. But if you were going to, because you're the master of that craft, what other chapter would you add to it? Or are there any revisions, even in the last couple of years, since bringing out the book and since touring the book and doing... And thank you again for doing interviews like this, doing all your wonderful interviews about your content. Is there anything you'd add to it now?
That's a really good question, because I am obviously thinking about what's, the next book. And it's so funny when
Bring it on.
Yeah, it's like everyone says, and is there another one coming?
I know. It's like, well, I don't want to be. Yeah, I know. I don't want to be that.
I'm not
person.
saying you. I'm joking, but it's a general. I say it to people all the time.
It's the greatest compliment. It is the greatest compliment, and only ever take it on as the greatest compliment, not a pressure. But I don't have to teach my granny how to suck eggs. I know you know.
So what would I add in, modify, or change? I think for me, what seemed to resonate hugely in the book was not the sciencey bits or the kind of even the nervous system bits, even though people do love that part. But for me, it's the soul piece. I feel like I'm just drawn more and more towards that, the leaning in, I suppose, to that side of things.
Yeah.
And looking at the surrendering. So I surrender, I spoke about in the book as just a little subsection of the soul. But I think I'd elaborate more on that. And because I think in the hustle world that we are kind of, just thrown into nowadays, is that we're like the wild horses and we're trying to catch them all the time and rein them back in. So for me, I was like, if you could tame the horse in the morning before it goes out to the day, or goes out for the day, well, then things go much smoother. The shit can still hit the fan, but you can react much differently.
Yes.
You'll come at it from a different place. So I think for me, it's looking more at the yin side of things and exploring. And I suppose this is, as I speak to you, it's just unraveling actually for me. I think particularly for women, it's getting women back into their feminine. And this isn't to, give out about women as a people, because I love us, we're amazing. But we're very much gone into prove ourselves to men, be equal, blah, 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 which is all important. But I think sometimes we're gone too far into the masculine energy, women, and the balance has shifted. The masculine energy being the go, the doer, the get up, the always on, the da 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 da, you know, reach those targets, reach that level, blah blah blah, which is brilliant. But I feel we've lost a little bit of the softness and the feminine, which is, you know, slow things down a bit here.
Yes.
Be in the heart. Come back to the nurturing, not just nurturing of others, but nurturing of yourself.
Yes.
You know, because I think we've kind of cut off a bit. And it's like, you know, as I mentioned earlier with the chakras, sometimes maybe we're cutting off and we're too much in the lower, the survive, the strive, prove myself to the world. Because we've ancestrally, I suppose, downloaded the suppression that we couldn't. And now it's like we want to, you know, go over and beyond. But I just don't lose the heart. Like, don't lose that. It's okay if you want to stay at home with your kids. Like, it's okay if you want to nurture yourself. It's okay if you want to experience rest and joy and play. Like, it's okay. But sometimes I just feel we don't give ourselves the permission because we're so busy proving ourselves to, you know, a status or something external.
I love that. And soft and strong can exist together. They can live right beside each other.
They absolutely coexist.
They're and they're,
you know,
they're expressions of each other. They're interrelatable all the while.
Yeah, I think for me personally, the most powerful woman that I've ever met are the soft women, are the people that have the strength and the softness. Like in yoga, back to yoga again, what we talk about, tall, strong back. So you lengthen through the spine. And that's just showing that I have a backbone. I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not going to be walked all over. I'm going to honor and value myself. But we're soft through the front, which means the heart is open. The belly is soft. Like we go around sucking in and trying to be this. It's like, it's the opposite. Can I soften? Can I honor myself and have a backbone, but do it through love and do it graciously as opposed to through aggression? If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And I hope women don't take this in a bad way, but I just think we need both.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that they should be the fluidity and the balance. So
and
that
I
we're
think
not.
Even men will, I think we're living in a lovely time of awakening of consciousness now. I think our physical bodies have perhaps evolved as much as they need to evolve for the moment. And the shift now is in consciousness. And I think men are beautifully falling into a greater awareness there as well around divine feminine energy and healing the mother wound, because male or female is, I believe we're all healing the mother wound, whether in our first generation or ancestors that we will never know, but we've maybe carried a baton from them inadvertently until we and the traumas or the stories that have been revolved in for generations will continue to be perpetuated down through the generations until one person stands up and says, no, stop.
Yeah.
This stops with me.
Yeah.
And that can often be the person whose life looks a little bit tragic. Maybe they fall into addiction.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're jumping from job to job, from relationship to relationship, and they look like they're too much, you know, and they can become that over emotive per se, by optics person that really actually is quite a healer.
Yeah.
They're just literally the butt end of 10 generations of same SH1T another decade.
They're so brave. Like they're the most incredible people. Like people have to break the cycles, really do the work.
Yeah.
And then they pave the way for the next generations to come. And, you know, it's an incredible thing to be able to do, is to stand up, to break a cycle, you know, to shift the shame. Absolutely. And to direct it into more of a nourishing path, you know. And also you mentioned there about men, and I think that also is something that, you know, me and Jerry are both passionate about, is because men are also now very much in the feminine. Like they're going, like if you go back to the generation, the men were the providers. They went out, they sourced, provided for the family at home. So we're not that long, you know, cut off from that way of being and thinking. But now men are also still out there providing, but they're also being incredible dads.
Yeah.
And they're doing the bedtime, and they're doing the stories, and they're taking the kids out on Saturday mornings to GAA and to soccer, and they're walking and pushing the prams, and they're cooking the dinners. Like they are doing so much of both. Are doing both.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we don't forget the men in this too, because they too are struggling.
Yeah.
They too are overstretched. They too are burning out.
Sure. And they might be a little bit victim
But they don't
of
talk about
the
it, you see.
patriarchal. Yeah, you see, as we might be slightly different. You're right. We might be a little bit more avant-garde because as a gender, it's been more normal or typical to chat.
Yeah.
And that is probably where the gap analysis needs to be done.
Yeah.
Do we need to free them up? The men's sheds were wonderful. That type of thing. An amazing opportunity just to see you, hear you, value you as a person, not a provider.
Yes.
As a being, not a doer.
Yes.
You know,
and this comes back to the communication I spoke about earlier. I think, you know, couples really, it's so important that they have these conversations because they may not be aware that their husband is struggling or feeling the tension, or because they just say, oh, get on with it just because I have to. But we'll speak about it typically, you know. So I just think it's so important that these conversations be had and say, how are you doing? This is how I'm doing. How are you doing? Like we have these, like this is what actually me and Jerry do. And it's so powerful and it doesn't take up much time. It's one sentence and it absolutely gives you an insight into how the person is doing. So every morning I would say to him, well, there's two sentences actually we could say. One is, where are your lights at today? So that means like, out of 10, where are you doing? Like 10 being, I'm great, I'm full of energy, I'm feeling good. 5, not great. Or 3, I'm really on the floor today. I'm tired, I'm whatever. Same with me. Or the other line, which I find very powerful, is, what do you need today? One thing, what do you need today? And he might just say, I need to get to the boxing bag today, or I need to get out for a run today, or I just need to pull back and have an easier day today or something. Because the power of our work is we give a lot, and it is, it can be, you know, quite, you know, you're holding a lot of space. So what do you need today? And I might just say to him, like, I need 10 minutes just to do a meditation, or I need a bit of help with whatever. Like, so it's just one line, but you're both being recognized, seen, acknowledged. And it's not even in the what do you need, it's the acknowledgement of being seen.
Yes.
That's what we lack. And I think that's what builds then frustration and irritation in people. Is like, I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like my needs are being met. Yeah. And that's where anger brews. So anger isn't really just anger. It's like your needs aren't being met.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you're perceived that they're not being met.
Well, so, they're not being met. They're not. If they're not being met, that's a full sense. They're not being met. You know, you're so right. And I love that piece where the two right brains are coming together in any good relationship. It's the two right brains kind of Siamese for a moment. You know, it's when the two right sides of the brain go together and you can be soft with each other and ask those questions, and then sit back a bit to allow your left brain receive, well, this is what I need. Okay, right, how am I going to kick into gear to give you that? Because percentage wise, if you have 20, I have 80 today. If you have 60, I have 40. And that's just, it's the harmony. It's never going to be balance, really. Balance is for tires, you know, because that's a pressure in its own right to try and seek that all the time. Yeah. But because I've watched you guys, only because you put it out there, not because I'm voyeuristic or anything, but I love the date night piece. And and it's so, again, it's because I watched Davina McCall as well, and she puts up lovely little videos with her partner, and there's the love and the two heads are together. It is amazing to use your platform to do very innocuous things like that. You're giving people a permission slip, really, to get that going on in their own relationships. Again, some relationships are just flatlined, not because they're done, not because there's no coming back and igniting the energy, and just because people forget to put the effort in.
I know.
And then when you just see somebody who's a really busy person, really highly achieved, and is ticking all the left brain boxes, putting the right brain together with the right brain of their partner to just be love and nothing else.
Yeah.
The ripple effect of that. Confucius is coming alive again in the middle of all of that. It starts in here, and it goes to the community, to the country, to the continent, to the world.
It's a lovely way of, you know, like I didn't even think of that ripple effect from that particular
gorgeous,
thing.
yeah.
But it's also, you know, because I was even saying it to my son, you know, because obviously we had to get a babysitter. You know, we went to see Les Mis, and we love that show. And I was chatting to him, and like like I'm always there. So I always put him to bed or Jerry or whatever. So it's very strange that if we have a babysitter, so he was like, what kind of thing, you know, because what we try to do is we would do a lot of maybe our date stuff during the day as well. Or, you know, we'll go for a swim together and go for coffee. So it doesn't always have to be in the evening time because bedtime is just something I'm very precious about. But I was saying to him, and again, the reframing, I said to him, you know, Eli, it's really important that mommy and daddy do things together. It's really important that mommy and daddy have date nights. And I could just see he got it. I was like, you know, you go and do things with your friends.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we mirror that, or that we, you know, show that as an example to our kids, because sometimes I can get caught into the martyrs. I have to be at home. I need to put the kids to bed every night. And I'm like, actually, I need to show them that it's important that you value the relationship with your partner and that you do things to keep honouring that. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be an expensive thing. It doesn't have to be going out to a fancy restaurant. It could be just putting the runners on and going for a walk together. Or, you know, going for a swim together. Like anything. Just getting an hour together is really, really important. And as you said, we can kind of forget about it, or the life can become about business or about the kids. It's just important that you allow the hearts to reconnect again.
Yeah, that you timetable that, like you timetable everything
else.
Like
put it in like you'd put it in a meeting.
Of course. It has to be a non-negotiable. But as you say, it doesn't have to be a non-negotiable every week or for an hour or for a weekend or for a really expensive opportunity. It's just about showing up for each other in that way. And then the hard conversations don't have to be difficult, because if you're having some of the things out that maybe were a disgruntlement, but you have them out in that space that you've carved out for yourselves, it's a totally different thing to having to, you know, bite down on something, let your throat chakra get mangled with tonsillitis or something before you finally come out and, you know, you're throwing them out of the house because they're useless, when really all you want to say is, why did you not see me that day? I needed to do no thing and I needed to do it with you.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
Sometimes we just, we make it into something else, and really it's not. It's the meeting of basic.
The issue is never the issue.
Yeah, it's always something else.
That's what I always say, you know, the issue is never really the issue.
Yeah.
There's an undercurrent, there's something brewing, a nerve has been hit that's been triggered maybe from a previous experience or whatever, and now it's just, it's like the landmine, like you're walking through the field and then you put your foot in something, it's just like, because you've just unearthed it, something has imprinted, and then it builds, and if you don't deal with it, it's like the parasite within, it just grows and gets bigger and bigger and gets more power. But if we can actually just, you know, take it out and like the ball of thread, you just pull it out gently, and just what's going on here, you know, and like that's not just even the conversation with somebody else, it's what's going on in me. Like having that awareness to stop and catch yourself and go, ooh, like a flare has just gone up here.
Yeah.
Why? What is that? What's in me that's,
all the alarm systems are going off at the same time and you're ignoring them.
That's it. And also I heard something really powerful. It was actually myself and Jerry chatting about it last night. He said, if there's something absent within a relationship, well then you're not bringing it to the relationship either. Isn't that really powerful?
Yeah.
You know, so if there's an absence of fun or joy or, you know, laughter or love, well then obviously you're not bringing any of that either. So it's like we can be very easily it's your fault.
Yes.
It's your fault. It's your fault. I have to go, oh, well, I have a part to play. There's two people tangoing here.
Yeah.
So what's my role as well?
And that's your power, not your kryptonite. Because when you realise that you have that power and you will show up for yourself and for your relationship. Because I always think that, you know, we have heard over the years, you must work hard on your relationship. And it's a bit of a bumper sticker that I think needs to be assigned to the archives at this stage, because I think we know better now. Like if I work on me and you work on you, the relationship will look after itself. Like that, if I notice such and such is absent and I come in at the level, you know, in the lower frequencies of it's your fault or, you know, assigning blame or, you know, they're very low vibrational offerings. I'm only going to get more of that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can bucklep up into love and self-compassion up there with Jesus and Buddha, I'm probably going to offer it, and you know, my partner might catch up. So you're right, it's the two-way conversation all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been, you know, just obviously to finish on that, it's been open to hearing, you know, what another person has to say and listening to that, because we can get defensive. We can jump in and I didn't do that, you know, and I am very quick to like say that about myself. I could be, what I did, or I can be very emotional. We can get emotional about things rather and take things personally, even if it's a work thing or something. We can, you know, very quickly take it as I did a bad job. I'm not enough, you know. And just becoming aware, because what happens is when you're thrown into a chaotic situation or a stressful situation, or if you're tired, you can very easily default back to your subconscious programs. And, you know, for me, for so long, my subconscious program is like, I'm not enough. You know, I'm not good enough. So if I'm tired or something goes on or doesn't go the way I kind of wanted it to, I can easily go back there, back to that place. Oh, sure, look, that's just reinforcing my subconscious belief. Sure, look, that's been right all along, you know? So it's just important that when you catch yourself, okay, that's okay. But the more awareness you have is the quicker you can come back out of it, rather than being a month in it or being a year in that place or a week or a day or whatever. You can kind of say, okay, no. And how do I come out of it? Very simple things like having your mantras, having your affirmations, saying your prayer. Like, I'm very religious. I love to sit into a church, light a candle. That just gives me a sense of solace and peace and brings me back to the heart, brings me out of fear and into love. Go for a walk, roll out the yoga mat, take a few deep breaths. Again, these don't cost anything. Drink some water. Like, literally, it can be as simple as you're dehydrated.
Grape brain as opposed to raisin brain.
Yes, exactly. And then that just helps to kind of pull you out of that space. I call them the icky emotions. It's like tamastic, that's sticky. Ones that we just, you know. And instead of stewing in them and letting it, like, you know, move through the fascia, you're just going to, get it out. So even like saging, like even just simple thing as getting your sage and cleansing or open the windows and little things like that.
It's as you say, it's just being, it's the awareness piece. You know, I'm just not in the whole of myself right now. So how am I going to get there? And what it works today won't work tomorrow. The company you might need to keep today to feel whole again might not be the company you choose tomorrow. But it's that flexibility and adaptiveness about it that gives you your strength, I think.
And I think you're right in that the tools and practices, which I call like the spirituality, they're the tools and the practices, can change. But the soul doesn't. As in, the spirituality are the tools that you use to connect and access the soul. The soul is always at pure light. The soul is a place that's never been wounded. It's the place that's just... So how you get to that place and connect to that place can change. So the modalities can shift and change. But knowing that when you get back, that's the anchor.
Wow. Time has collapsed for me. I've had the best time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
May time expand for you. And one of my biggest takeaways now is literally just as we finished up there, and I suppose borrowing from A Course in Miracles, there's always room for love and there's always a chance to express through love.
Absolutely.
So
I love that.
thank you. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Síle, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. And there you have it. A reminder that the real work of well-being isn't out there in the world. It's in here. It's in the heart. And as we discussed today, it's in the psychopharmacology of the self with a capital S. It's in the nervous system that is our first home. And borrowing again from Miriam's work, it's the sacred pause that lets us choose rather than react. It's in learning to read the body as a barometer, to trust its whispers before they become storms. It's in the alchemy of breath. You know how that longer, slower exhale engages the parasympathetic nervous system? That's it. It's allowing us to be awake, but calm. And of course, when nighttime comes, it allows us to be restful enough to cycle down through the brainwaves. Those brainwave states that preserve our genetic inheritance, consolidate learning, and metabolize the emotional contrast of the day. Not by replaying the triggering moments in waking life, but by resolving them symbolically in the mind movies that we call dreams. Our overnight therapist as such, working quietly in the background to bring us back to balance. It's in the integration of masculine structure and feminine flow, that dance between holding and softening, between direction and surrender. It's in that quiet return to self-trust, the shift from a performance-led life to a soul-led life. It's in the difference between alignment and achievement, between what looks good and what feels true. It's in the inner child who still needs safety. And it's in the inner mother who knows how to give that safety. It's in the somatic imprinting that we carry and the rituals of presence that help us to rewrite it. It's in embodied spirituality, not ideas, not concepts, but lived truth. It's in the quiet courage of choosing yourself in a world that we all know benefits from your depletion. It's in the healing of overwhelm and overgiving. And most importantly, it's in the reclamation of feminine wisdom that was never meant to be lost. It's in that soul space between stimulus and response, as Miriam speaks so fluently and fluidly about, the place where freedom lives, where clarity rises, and, of course, where we light up from within. And so, dear listeners, your task for this week is to recognize that breath-thin moment between stimulus and response. Just that. That tiny sacred space where your freedom lives, where you can choose consciously rather than repeat from the program, where you can return to yourself before you return to the world. So I welcome you now, if it's safe to do so, and if you're so inclined, just to take a moment. Close your eyes with me and breathe. Place your hand on your heart and gently inhale for a count of 7. And slowly, softly exhale for a count of 11. So that's a count and not seconds. And just continue that gentle inhale and slow exhale. Let that longer, slower out breath engage the parasympathetic nervous system. Let it signal safety. Let it bring you back to center. And as you continue breathing gently, let's do it slightly differently this time. Let's practice the physiological sigh. Gently inhale, add a second small sip of air at the top. And in that long, unforced exhale, just let your conscious mind go offline for a moment and allow your subconscious mind visualize a trapeze artist swinging gracefully and noticing another trapeze swinging towards him. When will he let go? When will he take hold of the other swing? Hold space with not knowing, the anticipation, and then feel that suspended moment with him after he lets go of the old bar, just before the new one arrives in his hands. That weightless breath, where nothing is certain and everything is possible. You don't have to force this metaphor. Just notice how it feels in your body to imagine that space. And before you come back into the room, wherever you are, I invite you to activate your inner knowing, that deep sense of knowing, the part of you that recognizes when you're sliding, not deciding, when you're cycling in stories that don't serve you, when it's time to break the habit of being you and step into who you're becoming. And practicing this pause will help you to respond more healthily to your environment going forward. And remember, as Course in Miracles teaches us, nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. And so it is.